Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that this broadcast will be as educational and inspire you to just do more for women. So I would like to start us off by emphasizing the importance of taking ownership for our actions. You know, the journey to change starts with us all, and how we conduct ourselves among women and other younger men as men. So we have to start leading by example. I think that is pretty self-explanatory in itself. If we can show our peers how a woman ought to be treated, then they will have no choice but to follow in our example and follow suit. This can start off with the simplest things, like letting a woman be themselves. I think we have often came across men that tell women what to do and what else, but the thing is, do not tell a woman how to conduct herself in the presence of other men. Do not tell a woman how to dress. We do not own women. It does not take a lot for a man to empower women. You can empower women by simply letting the woman be herself. And you can also empower women by starting to normalize these conversations. If we can normalize conversations like racism in order for us to get people getting involved in telling their stories, then surely we can normalize issues surrounding gender-based violence. Why do I say this? Because one, it will inspire more women to come out and report their cases. Secondly, men will become more aware of these issues and think twice before inflicting pain upon our women. It must, however, be emphasized that in order for us to address everything regarding gender-based violence, we will need to work as a collective. I would like to address two questions, two frequently asked questions, to state it properly. Firstly, the one question is, why should women, or rather, what should you do when a woman provokes you? Secondly, does chivalry lay the foundation for inequality? Dealing with the first question, I think the answer does not lie in us teaching women or our daughters how not to prevent their boyfriends, but rather teaching our sons that our masculinity is not to be used to strip a woman of their dignity and identity. Recognizing that you have the strength to cause harm is one thing, but actually knowing how to control it is what sets you apart from a would-be man and a real man. This should be the prerequisite of calling yourself a man in the first place. In response to the second question, most men are taught to push out chairs, open doors for women, but the problem with this concept is many men, or some men, interpret it as men being superior to women, meaning women are weaker than men. Well, let me be the first to tell you that you are uninformed, misinformed, and ill-informed. Do not confuse treating a woman with kindness as women being weaker, but rather as a gesture to symbolize respect for your fellow man. As a future parent, I think the responsibility is for us to see, and it's for all of us to realize that it is on you to teach your son that chivalry should not be used as a way to increase the inequality, but rather as a way to groom you from a man to a gentleman. Coming to this next segment, we have all have different experiences growing up. We've all encountered gender-based violence growing up. Firsthand, might I add. When I first started this initiative, it was a very emotional point of departure in handling these issues. I remember the previous day, before I released my first video, the previous day, my mom was subjected to the worst kind of gender-based violence I have ever seen. Battered and bruised, and I tried to fight this person, this perpetrator, but he was just too strong for me. I remember it was a moment where I just felt like everything was out of my control and I could do absolutely nothing to help my mother. Till now, she's still reaping the effects of that same traumatic experience. She can't hear properly in the one ear because of that. I'm just very lucky that she is alive to this day and that she doesn't have any serious permanent damage to her. Now, the problem with what happened to me was not everyone will have the courage to say, okay, I have had enough now. Because the next victim will not maybe be as courageous as I was to do the same things I did. So what do? They resort to suicide as a way to exonerate themselves from the pain. Growing up, I realized that alcohol abuse can enhance and aggravate any situation. I realized that you cannot control a person's drinking habit, but you can educate people about the effects thereof. Now, don't misinterpret me for justifying people's actions or making excuses for people's actions, because that was what someone else told me, that I'm trying to make excuses, but I'm not. I think we have to realize these things and confront them head on. It must be, however, said that when one is intoxicated, you are inclined to not think straight. You are doing things that you would not normally do. Like, for example, forcing a girl to have sex with you. We must teach responsibility from a very young age. We cannot change the past like I experienced, but we can show us how shape the future by making very small contributions in our everyday lives. In short, promote healthier childhoods. I would like to end my segment by issuing a challenge to every single young man out there. There will be women who come to you for help, and I have first-hand experienced that. Whether it be tacitly, expressively, impliedly, or explicitly, we have been given one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. That is my belief. Listen to her. Listen to her before judging her about what you think transpired. Listen. Secondly, we all have friends. All of us. You know people. Even a stranger passing by, you might know their name. We all know how that person is. We know their personalities. I don't know if you experienced it, Nico, but we all know people. If you experience or see something, do not be a bystander. Have the courage and the guts to say what you are doing is not wrong, is not right, and it must be fixed now before it becomes a real problem. Call your friends out, because women need men like that. I thank you. I now hand over to this wonderful guest of mine, Nico Prinsloo, who will now further educate us about issues surrounding gender-based violence. Nico?
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Atang. I just want to ask maybe one or two things or comment on something that you said, especially now at the end.
Yeah.
I think when Atang says call your friends out, it doesn't just mean if you see him hitting a girl. That's already too late. If you see in your friend's relationship with his girlfriend or with other friends who are girls, that they have an aggressive tone to them every time they're around each other, then obviously you can query that. You can ask him, listen, is everything still fine there? Because if you start down the road, you don't know where it's going to end, and it might be in a place that gets you in jail. So you, as a gentleman, like you said as well, we have to be the example. So in that sense, go to your friend and be the example and tell him that I think you're not doing the right thing now. Let's work together to fix this, to better yourself, so you can also be the example for other people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you said that. It's really important. Okay, so I have this little speech prepared. Sorry that I'm not talking off the cuff, because I like to order my thoughts so that I don't repeat myself. Okay, well, here we go. So, we have to condemn violence as a collective, and especially gender-based violence, violence against women. Now, this is an age-old problem and can manifest itself in many different ways. A study conducted by the UN found that almost 70% of women had experienced some sort of physical or sexual abuse from a partner. And that's a shocking statistic. I mean, that's not even to mention from a stranger. Now, for the rest of the speech, we'll be focusing on the problem at hand, men abusing women. Now, why do men abuse women? I think it's very important that we identify that, because you can only solve a problem if you really know the root of the problem itself. Now, there's no simple answer to this question, obviously. But studies done in the USA have suggested that there are two main drivers in this type of behavior. These two drivers are power and lust. Now, these same studies have explained that domestic violence almost always occurs not when the man is just angry, but when the woman raises a voice. And it's the truth, according to the studies, but it's a very sad truth. It shouldn't be that way. But anyway, this is where the power element comes in. Now, a man refuses to be dominated by a woman's rage and then retakes his position of power by exploiting the woman's physical inferiority by assaulting her. To combat this, we need to get men to realize, firstly, that being in a power position does not mean you have to show off your physical prowess. That's not what a power position is, if you really want to be in that power position. Instead, we should realize that this idea is completely illogical and should stay in the animal kingdom where it came from. Secondly, we should realize that being in a power position in any type of relationship is an honor, a privilege, and something you have to work for, something you have to earn. It's not something you were simply born with. The only way to get men to make this mind shift is to talk about it. Like Atang said, normalize the conversation. Normalize it with your friends, online, and in your classrooms. Spread the positive ideals about what power and what a man should like. Make it part of our daily language. Now, the second driver is lust. Known all too well by men through history, it being the downfall of many a good man. We know this is the main reason for rape. Rape being the most extreme form of sexual harassment. But men sexually harass women every day without even realizing it. It's in the small things. If you are in a relationship and you are forcing your girlfriend to do something she doesn't want to do, then that is sexual harassment. And like I said earlier, once you go down the slope, you don't know where it's going to stop. You should be a safe place for your partner, and for any woman for that matter. If your partner can't feel safe by her man, how can she feel safe at any man? So start with the people nearest to you and make sure that you're a safe place to them. Now, the study I mentioned also found that worldwide approximately 15 million adolescent girls have experienced some sort of sexual forced sex in some way. This happens because of the sexualized nature of our generation's culture. We need gentlemen to rise and to instill chivalrous trends among other men, exactly like what Atang said, where we see women as people, brilliant people, beautiful people, the people that they are, and not as objects. This will cut sexual abuse off at its source. Respect for women means less of a rape culture, means less sexual harassment, and hopefully means less sexual abuse and gender-based violence. Now, President Ramaphosa had the following to say about this topic. Violence against women is not a woman's problem. It is not what a woman said or did, what a woman was wearing or where she was walking. Violence against women is a man's problem. It is men who rape and kill women. There is therefore an obligation on the men of this country to act and end crimes of such behavior. So in other words, it's not just Atang that feels this way. It's not just myself who feels this way. Even President Ramaphosa realizes what the situation is. It's not a woman's problem, it's a man's problem. Now, I completely agree with the President, like I just said, but I will add this. Unfortunately, we do not yet live in a time where women can go where they want, do what they want, when they want. It's very sad, but it's the unfortunate truth. So please, until we get this message across, and make South Africa a safer place for everyone. Do whatever you do with caution. At night, move in groups, get pepper spray, or learn self-defense. My brother and I, we actually taught our younger sisters exactly how to defend themselves, because we know we're not always going to be there to protect them. So women and men as well actually have to learn to take care of themselves and to defend themselves. Now, I have mentioned how men can be the problem in these violent crimes, but we are also the solution. There are many good men in the world, and I'm sure many listening now. The good men should take a stand and become the gentlemen we mentioned earlier. Let us make this campus, this town, and this country a place where we can, where women can safely do what they want, where they want, and when they want. Thank you.
Wow.
That's me.
Thank you so much for every single thing you said, Nico. I think every single one can take note from that book of his because it's wise. Thank you so much for your research done. It really means a lot. Thank you so much to you for sending in your questions. I can only ask a few. I'm gonna put them to Nico now. I would like to ask, and thank you so much again for sending in the questions. It really means a lot. It means that you care. It means that you really want to make a difference. So Nico, the first question is, what would you do if a person close to you, like your father, subjects a woman to violence?
Well, I mean, I think most people will hesitate in the situation firstly because you're not daily confronted with it. But especially if it's a person close to you, then you should be comfortable enough to take them on. If it's my father, I obviously have respect for my father and I love him, but you'll have to do the necessary steps to keep the woman safe because you're in the position to make the difference and you should act immediately even though you want to hesitate. I think in physical way maybe, just a simple grab, take him way out of the situation to get the situation calm. Talk to him because, like I said, it's a person close to you, so you'll obviously have a good relationship with them. If you can get them out of the situation and talk to them, then hopefully they'll calm down and everything will be fine after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I think.
Great answer, by the way.
Thanks.
I'm going to alternate between the questions from the emails and the questions we just received now. What is your view on the increase of gender-based violence cases during lockdown?
Well, yeah, it's a very sad statistic, but I don't want to say understandable one. Out of a statistical point of view, understandable because people are together more, they're in the same space the whole time, and aggravation can occur. Obviously, it's something we don't want. So the question is now, should a lockdown like this happen again? How can we prevent the statistic from rising again? What do you think?
I think that we need to have an educational form of raising kids. I mean, if this issue does occur again in the future, we need to find each and every way possible to combat these issues from reoccurring. And the simplest way is starting with yourself. I mean, it's very easy for us to blame each and every person outside of our house. But if you can start with yourself, realizing that what happens is wrong, and the only way to combat it is if I teach my children what is right from wrong. Because what that child will do is take that knowledge you just put on him and transfer it to another child. Whether we know so or not, I've learned so much from my friends. I can even read the periodic table back to front. That is how much I've learned from my friends. That is my contribution to that. So, I would like to bind this question with the one from the email. Firstly, are schools doing enough to combat gender-based violence? And in addition to that, this person says, yes, it's good that you are quoting the president, but do you think the government is doing enough? And what can be done to fully address the issue of gender-based violence?
Well, I saw a very interesting video earlier today that was talking about the influence that the government has on people every day. And the thing is, the government shouldn't have a very direct influence in people's lives. That's why I'll firstly say that I think the problem at hand is a thing of social structures, of yourself, your nearest family. Like we said, that's why the emphasis of what we said was specifically on that. But it doesn't mean the government can't do anything. We said conversation is key, normalizing the conversation. And they definitely have the means to spread information and to get the conversations started. I think if they can get media houses to really get gripping, I'd like to say ads, would it be informational videos they can play on TV and everything, to make people realize that this isn't a thing that's not affecting anyone. It's not a thing that you only hear about once in a while. It's really happening. So from the government side, I'd say they can really contribute to spreading the message and getting the conversations in our daily routine, so to say.
I would just like to add, in addition to that, I responded to a situation just recently, and I really tried to help the situation, but it didn't happen like that because the woman did not want any help, although she was subjected to gender-based violence. What I can ask and what I plead is that we have to understand that the government can also do so much. Like Nico said, social structures are so important. Your influence as a friend on that victim is so crucial. We have to understand that friends see us as role models sometimes. If you can educate that person that what this guy is doing is wrong, and if you do not put an end to it, it will happen again. Ultimately, the person will end up in a body bag. That is the harsh reality of this country. The closest people, like Nico said, are usually the perpetrators. So we have to address these things by educating our friends. When you are not in a situation, it's very easy for you to react. So then react. Try your best to react to a situation. Be as objective as possible and try to help each and every person involved in that situation.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add one more thing about the government thing. I think a practical thing they might be able to do from their side to get exactly what we need to get the ground level working is maybe endorsing and funding people like what Atang's doing now. People who are willing to go into the social structures and trying to get the conversation normalized. I think they can identify people who are trying to make a difference and maybe fund them, maybe give them strategical advice, maybe give them a team to spread the message as far as possible. And just to touch on the school thing, it was a long time ago for me when I was in school, but my sisters are at school at the moment, and I can't remember them telling me that they're really discussing gender-based violence as an issue at all. So what can schools do? Anything at the moment. I think life orientation is there for a reason. Put it in the syllabus. Make sure that people understand that this is a problem. Get this conversation normalized there as well. At assemblies, have a speech about it. Get people who have an opinion about it to come and speak at the schools. Yeah, well, but at the moment, just do anything. If you're listening, teachers, scholars, students, school children, then yeah, please get that conversation going.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question. Where is the simplest place to start in addressing patriarchy and inequality? Just shortly.
Simplest place to start addressing patriarchy and inequality. Well, we've said it many times, but at yourself.
Yeah.
But specifically, and we have been emphasizing men, and this is the most emphasis we can put on it. We have to understand that if we're talking about the patriarchy, we're saying that the negative part of it is that some men believe that they are automatically, because of the gender they're born, more powerful, or I can say you're supposed to get more out of life. You're supposed to be in a higher position than the woman, at least. A woman's opinion isn't as valid, and I think that obviously is a thing where fathers should teach their children, and since we're at the age we're becoming the generation who are going to be the next fathers, we should start in ourselves to understand it. And once again, just get the conversation going to understand that the patriarchy is, it can be a very, very negative thing. I can go into a lot of detail that there are benefits as well to a household where you have a leader and a follower.
Yeah.
But nowadays, the leader doesn't always have to be the man.
Exactly.
It's just biologically, most of the time, it does turn out to be that way, but it doesn't always have to be.
Yeah.
And the belief that weak men should also be the leaders in a house, that belief we should.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alright, so it would be very inappropriate of me to not express my deepest gratitude to all of you who are listening, first of all, and secondly, to my hashtag #YuriForMe team and family. I cannot emphasize to you the amount of time it takes to come up with these things, to actually do the research, to work together to get the videos out there and get everyone involved to get the same productivity every single week. My deepest gratitude to you guys. I really appreciate you a lot. We are going to move further than this. This is not going to be the end. Thank you so much to my hostel for the support you've given me during this time. I really appreciate this. Being in Veritas Manskosais has been literally a revelation for me, and understanding what things are and how to make a leader be themselves, and in the same process tackling issues which most people regard as sensitive. So in conclusion, thank you very much, Nico, for joining me. It was really a privilege to share this moment with you. To the cameraman here, Rasaad, thank you very much. I really appreciate each and every one of you for watching and tuning in. I hope that we have given you all the access, and most of the access, to issues surrounding gender-based violence, and you have educated yourself as much as possible. Please inspire your friends to go out there and do what we just told you guys to do, and just inspire more women to just be the strong women that we know South African women can be. Thank you very much. We are officially over.